Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be featuring the Pyotr Bagration, the Tier 8 Soviet premium cruiser. I can't really say if it's supposed to be a light or a heavy cruiser because, well, the guns are decidedly heavy, but the armor is decidedly light. Matchmaking is once again one of these full tier 8 games. I really love when I get this type of matchmaking because I feel like it's the best example of what the ship can do. When you're up tiered, all tier 8s will always perform worse, and when you're top tier on the other hand and you're clubbing tier 6s, well, obviously you're gonna have a very easy time of it. So I really like the fact that we've been seeing more of these full tier 8 games after they kind of changed the matchmaking. The downside of this is of course that tier 7 matchmaking has really suffered because of this, and tier 7 ships end up against tier 9s basically all the time. So we got good tier 8, but it cost us tier 7. Sad days. Moving on, Pyotr Bagration. The health pool is 42k health, which is very respectable, and it actually has a 16% torpedo belt. Something, well, it's pretty standard for heavy cruisers to have some form of torpedo belt. The armor is 25mm bow and stern and 25mm upper belt. It does have 27mm deck armor, so very much the standard light cruiser armor. The exception here is of course that it does have an icebreaker, a 40mm icebreaker at the front of the bow, protecting the citadel. However, I have gotten citadel through the nose anyway, and what I expect happened is because the nose is fairly long, a shell overmatched just above the icebreaker and then punched into my citadel. So at range, the icebreaker is by no means foolproof. The belt armor itself is 152, but it's layered armor, and behind that 152 you got a 40mm second layer of armor protecting the citadel. The citadel is, however, quite high above the water, and if the Bagration is caught full broadside, it is a pretty easy cruiser citadel, provided you have the penetration to get past that 180mm combined armor. One of the greater changes to this ship is probably something you're seeing a fair bit of right now, and that is the change to the concealment. When I made a review of a preview of the Pyotr Bagration a while back, Wargaming has nerfed the ship. Quite considerably, in fact, because they nerfed the detectability range from 12.6 to 14 kilometers. What this means is that the concealment that used to be 9.9 kilometers is now 11 kilometers. Now, obviously, this is very significant because the Bagration had a fair share of weaknesses. Most importantly, the firing angles, which you can probably see demonstrated here. One of the front turrets really struggles to shoot backwards when kiting away, and if you're pushing in, well, you struggle to get your back turret in. That's just the way it works. It's quite easy to get 2 turrets on target, but if you want to use all 3, well, the firing angles are simply quite dreadful. Now, messing with the concealment means that it's significantly riskier to give this broadsides, but of course the AP penetration, as you probably saw there, is still fantastic. The AP performance across the board is great. It does cost you some reload though, but improved pen angles are still there, and the pen is still better than Baltimore's pen, so any cruiser caught broadside can be punished extremely hard. But the nerf is quite significant. You can see a good example here. Once again, the firing angles are one of the greatest weaknesses of this ship, and well, it's honestly quite a necessary weakness because otherwise the ship would be far too good. But another thing they also changed is they reduced the turret traverse speed. It used to be 8 degrees per second. They reduced it to 6 degrees per second. The difference is this makes the turrets on the Bagration actually one of the slowest of all tier 8 heavy cruisers, and it also basically mandates using expert marksmen to help alleviate the issues with the slow turret traverse. And this combination, of course, of poor concealment, or not poor concealment, 11 km, it's not very good either, but poorer concealment and very poor firing angles and slower turrets means that the ship is significantly more challenging to use as effectively in the past, because you can't just use that amazing concealment to reposition your ship or just go dark and wait for that opportune moment to ambush enemy ships. The DPM values, especially HE DPM, were never really that special. The main battery reload is 11 seconds, the alpha is 2.5k. Not that impressive. 180mm guns, I'm not running IFHE, so I do have a 17% fire chance on them. The reason, of course, I don't build IFHE on the Bagration is because the AP power is so very strong that I mostly focus on using AP on basically any target that I possibly can. Anything that gives me broadside. Ultimately, the Bagration, the question of course raised is it worth it? I think the best way I could describe it would be kind of like a AP Atago. It's a hard hitting, just like the Atago, it's a very tanky heavy cruiser. Not quite as stealthy, but then again it still has that icebreaker, which makes it tanky in a different way. And the AP performance is something that really makes it stand out. For example, the Prince Eugen that has that turtleback, that angled turtleback that I mentioned in the past, well, that angled turtleback doesn't work that well when you got Bagration's incredible penetration, and then you got those improved pen angles that you have on the guns. So even a Prince Eugen that normally gets to enjoy being overpenned and just not eating those big sits can be fairly consistently citadeled by the like of Bagration. In fact, most other cruisers really struggle when it comes to fighting against this thing. It's not just the AP power with the improved angles that makes it scary, but you can just straight up rush into close range, and then you got those torpedoes. They're only 55 knots, but you launch 5 of them per side, and that's easily enough to devastate basically any ship that you're charging into. In fact, I bullied around the likes of a Kronstadt. He pushed into me, then I turned around and started pushing right at him, and he realized, oh crap, he needs to turn away and run, because it's simply not a fight he can win. Because, well, my torpedoes were going to shred him, despite his 71k health. AA-wise, honestly, probably one of the strongest, I would say. The AA is just excellent. You got a lot of continuous damage. It's 5.8 km range on the AA, and you shoot out 8 flak shells as well. The turning circle is a significant weakness. It's 890 meters, and of course the turning circle, combined now with the slower turret traverse and the poorer concealment, makes the firing angle issue much harder to deal with, because once again, turning broadside to use all your guns is significantly riskier. My summary is, when it comes to the power of this ship, no longer do I consider it as overpowered as it used to be. Bagration's issue used to be that it was basically, it wasn't really the best at anything besides, I guess, AP pen, but it was among the top performers of basically all the important values, like tankiness, AP pen, or just AP performance, concealment, like all these things that allow you to play effectively. And turning down concealment has greatly hampered this effect. Tirpitz pushing in, trying to get some fires on him, 30mm pen of course, but oh, and then we have another thing that needs to be highlighted, and that is of course the range. One of the things that allows the Bagration to tear up fairly well. 18.5k range. If you look at the minimap, I can basically shoot anywhere on the map, and that's without any spotter plane whatsoever. And it's Soviet shell velocity, which means that, well, 930 meters per second on the AP, 920 meters per second on the HE. You can reach anywhere on the map. And this means that even when up-tiered into these large tier 10 maps, the ship will perform very well. You can brawl most ships, just use the front guns, bow in, get into torpedo range. You do have hydro. Keep in mind that the current hydro is not the final hydro. The current hydro on the Bagration in game right now is actually a shorter hydro. It's 3 km torpedo detection and 4 km ship detection. This is actually being changed in 0.9.5 into 3.5 km torpedo and 5 km ship detection. So the hydro will actually become significantly stronger on the ship, which is obviously a nice upgrade. Here you get an example of the AP, as the Tirpitz is giving me a lot of broadside. I don't want to be hitting his citadel armor, because obviously we're not going to be penetrating that regardless of how good the pen on the ship is. But once we hit that upper belt and we get those full arming volleys, you realize that, well, having low HE DPM isn't really that much of an issue when you can pump out volleys that hit for 8-9k. There are better targets to do this on, especially like Yamato's Musashis. They eat huge amounts of AP from the ship. Another, what, 6k volley. He's popping his heal though, trying to kill him off. Get to showcase the AA as well, as the rocket planes are harassing me. Baltimore, I'm respecting the possibility that he might be shooting AP, but of course I have improved AP angles as well, and he does not have torp, so I'm not afraid to push in and take this fight at all. In fact, this is something you note a lot when you play the Bagration, is that you don't really fear any other tier 8. The only tier 8s you potentially fear are the ones that have a lot of torpedo power, and the ones that respect your AP enough to go nose in, like something like Hipper, Eugen, whatever. If they just go nose in and push you, you will have a hard time. But if they have no torpedoes, you can bully them, and you can bully them hard. Taking the risk of turning out, hoping he doesn't shoot AP, he keeps shooting HE, and I'm angling away from the torpedoes as best as I can. It does have access to, of course, 4 heals. This is something I covered in the past preview. 28-second action time, 68-second cooldown, a significant healing amount, and 4 of them combined with the high health pool means that the Bagration can take a massive beating, and it can push into situations where many other tier 8 cruisers would simply melt. This thing does not. Carrier bricks my rudder, which is a bit annoying, but I'm just gonna slow down and chill for a bit and let my heal come off cooldown before his next planes come in. I doubt I'll be able to Citadel the Lexington. He does have that much armor on that hull, but I will easily be able to arm the AP on his broadside, so we're just gonna start chunking him down as the game time starts ticking out, or actually the points start ticking out. Rocket planes start a fire, but I just damage con it. If he spins around for another swing, the planes are gonna probably get shot down, because as I mentioned, even with all the hits I've taken, the AA on the ship is quite respectable. It looks like he's losing basically the entire squad. They're dropping me. I'm surprised he isn't trying to disengage, trying to kite. Another 8k AP volley. If I remember correctly, the fuse on the AP is also short fuse, which means it arms very quickly, which makes it especially effective since you don't end up getting as many overpens as you normally would. Sadly, I doubt I'll have enough time to kill him, because we are 10 seconds away from winning this game. I'm hoping to maybe get some huge volleys in at the end, but RNG says no, and I actually get some of the worst volleys so far. The game ends in a fairly convincing win. Confederate First Blood, high caliber. Money making, of course, with special flags. 11 citadels, 18 planes shot down, and 2 kills. In general, you want to focus mostly on playing it as an AP ship. I think the description AP Atago is probably the best description you can get of the Bagration. Slow reloading, clumsy firing angles, fairly clumsy ship as well, but can be devilishly tanky as long as you're not caught broadside, just like the Atago. And if you do get to shoot full volleys at any ship, they will absolutely be feeling it. And if you do get to YOLO someone, they will absolutely be feeling it as well. Team score wise, 2.5k, which shows, I guess, the consistency against other tier 8 opponents. I can give you an example actually. I spoke of pushing into Kronstadt and just bullying him around. I can show you that example. Here's detailed report. Not too much about it. I damage received 47.5k, but of course I still had heals remaining, and something that cannot be overstated, if you do have Kuznetsov, you can of course run him on this ship as well. And Kuznetsov makes any Soviet ship significantly better, because it's another damage con, it's another heal, and especially in a cruiser, it's a 20% dispersion debuff on anyone shooting at you. In fact, before I go to my recommended build, let me demonstrate just how much of a bully you can be towards the like of a Scharnhorst. A good example is the Kronstadt. Sorry, did I say Scharnhorst? I meant to say Kronstadt. Kronstadt is pushing heavily aggressive in our spawn, and I start pushing right back at him. And that's when he instantly realizes, damn, he's got a lot of health, significantly more health than I do. He's got a heal as well. His Citadel is now impossible to hit, and he's even got a Leningrad as support. But I know for a fact that if I get to YOLO him, if I get to push him, I can absolutely crush him. Leningrad gets spotted. The ship is quite fast as well. Hydro is active, spots his incoming torpedoes. I swing it a bit to the right and then to the left to get a bit of a fishtail effect to dodge past those two torpedoes. And I'm able to evade them without taking any hits. Leningrad smokes up. Of course, if this was the buffed Hydro, this is a good example of the... In 0.9.5, I would be permanently spotting him with that improved Hydro range. Now, however, I have to push into 4 kilometers of range before I can kill him off. I'm just keeping, once again, my bow pointed towards that Kronstadt, and there is basically nothing he can do about it. There is absolutely nothing he can do about it. If he tries to brawl me, I will torpedo him to smithereens. He is forced to run. And this is what really makes the Bagration such a bully. It's not like the Kronstadt is the only ship you can do this to. Any heavy cruiser, any cruiser basically, you can do this to. You can do this to battleships as well. But especially heavy cruisers, because they can't overmatch your nose, they are, with those torpedo angles, and you see the kind of spread you can throw out. Obviously the torpedoes are very slow, so you have to be point blank. At this point I'm just throwing them out, hoping I might catch him. But he's too fast, and he's probably just gonna sail past them. But it gives you an idea of the power that this thing has when it comes to brawling. Just stay nose in, keep pushing, and the only thing they can do is run. If it becomes a DPM fight, like kiting away like this, well, you still have the heal, you still have the incredible sustain, and you are able to bully most ships you come across. Alright, as usual, starting off with the modules. Consumable wise, well, you could run defensive AA, and as I said, the Bagration actually has pretty good AA values. 198 DPS on the long range aura and 8 flak being thrown out. But Hydro is obviously still the better choice, because even through defensive AA, if a carrier wants to kill you, especially if he's higher tier, he's still going to do it. Upgrade wise, turret and torpedo survival, followed by improved Hydro duration. If you don't have it, just run engine room protection. You did see me lose my rudder, but then again, torpedoes to the stern tend to do that even to battleships. Better dispersion on the main guns, faster rudder shift. Trust me, you will need it, because you have to swing the ship around a lot, especially when trying to use all 3 guns, because you have to give so much broadside to actively use them. And finally, concealment. Captain build wise, Kuznetsov, if you have him, clearly the best choice, there's just no doubt about it. Priority target, Adrenaline Rush, Superintendent. Normally you don't prioritize this on a tier 8 cruiser, but when you have a heal like this thing does, absolutely a fantastic addition. Concealment Expert. After this, you kind of have to build into Expert Marksman, simply because, as I mentioned, your turret traverse is really poor. Even with Expert Marksman, it's 26.9 seconds, which is very slow, considering even Ataga, who's known for its slow turrets, has 26.1. You have slower turrets than he has. So once you have built Expert Marksman, I would say build Expert Loader, Demolition Expert. You do shoot a fair bit of HE on anyone angling sharply enough towards you, and of course DDs. Jack of all trades, especially if Kuznetsov, because you get an improved Jack of all trades for faster heal, faster Hydro, and finally preventive maintenance. Flag wise, it's pretty straightforward. You add healing, speed, faster consumables, and then you add fire chance. After that, it's kind of free for all. I do kind of recommend the AA flag if you have it, because as mentioned, the AA values on this ship are quite respectable. The camo I'm running here is of course the Soviet one, and the standard premium looks like this. Overall, a pretty nice looking ship, and overall a pretty damn strong ship as well. Not quite as strong as it used to be. I actually like the changes they have made, because I felt like the Bagration was just in too good of a position earlier. But now with the changes, you have to make sacrifices to use the AP. The AP is monstrous, it's great, and the broadsides are incredibly powerful. But in order to use that broadside, you also have to show a lot of this huge citadel that goes from the back turret all the way in front of the front turrets and is significantly above the waterline. Make no mistake though, I think the Bagration is a very strong ship, and it's absolutely a recommended ship if you want to play this kind of, I guess, AP Atago. That's really the closest description when it comes to playstyle on this thing. I wouldn't call it the Baltimore, even though it would be easy to compare it to the Baltimore, because the Baltimore doesn't play the kind of kiting open water role that you sometimes do in the Bagration, and of course the Baltimore has a radar, which gives it much more of that nose-in utility. Overall, a fun ship and a strong ship, but it does have its weaknesses, and especially I would say new captains who aren't used to dealing with these kind of firing angles, they will find themselves eating a lot of citadels, and that experience will undoubtedly be quite frustrating. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my commentary. I will talk to you guys later, and as always, if you feel like it, please do drop a sub to my channel. We are closing in on 100k at a terrifying pace. Talk to you guys later. Have a good one.